I'm not going to start with the peace greeting this time. I did that yesterday at the beginning of that live stream because I wasn't really thinking about it, and so I did it by force of habit. Today's message is a continuation of yesterday's live stream. And you know that was a very militant and warlike message I was delivering. And so it was not appropriate for me to use the peace greeting. It's not appropriate for me to do so right now. So because of this, I'm going to sit up and tell you at this point that I forgot to tie something in yesterday. And that's why I turned this recorder on to tell you this today. I completely forgot yesterday to tie in something I said over a month ago, maybe 2 months now. But I said that you must learn to disrespect even her preferences and her standards, even her wishes. Not necessarily just dumb decisions that they may make, but go beyond not respecting dumb decisions they make. Go beyond that and disrespect even their preferences, their fantasies, because their fantasies are based on someone else's fantasies, really. Their fantasies should not even be fantasies, because there are things, if you have a fantasy, gentlemen, oftentimes you know it's just a fantasy. You live without it. And not only that, but your fantasies have a basis in reality. But when it comes down to their fantasies, they don't even have any logical sense to them. See, your fantasy may be a fantasy because it will not happen. Theirs involve things that cannot happen. I remember years ago, I was getting ready to leave the U.S. and come here to teach. And in the meantime, I was doing some delivery drives for this restaurant I mentioned before. That's where I met this Egyptian guy that taught me bad Arabic, a few sentences of bad Arabic, and had me jacked up when I landed over here. And the restaurant was owned by an Abyssinian and an Eritrean Muslima. Two Muslimas. Roughly from the same region, but the border between ran through their respective towns. So they could both speak Amharic, but they also had their own language they could use with each other. I don't know if it was Tigray or Tigrayan or if it was another one. I'm not sure. But they could speak something other than Amharic to each other. And they both could speak bits of Arabic as well. So anyway, in the end, what wound up being the case was that my younger boss, as we were sitting down on a break, said to me, Black, understand that some of what you're going through at home is normal. It's just, we women want things that, and it's not our fault. We can't help these things that we want, and we get upset at times, and I let her say, what are these things you want that are unreasonable? And she said to me, well, I was in the mall earlier with my fiance, and she was engaged to be married. She said, I was in the mall earlier with my fiance, and I just all of a sudden wanted to buy everything, buy the mall and take everything home with me. And my response today would be, I don't feel the guff about you wanting that. One, you did not indulge. And two, you did not take it out on your fiance, I hope. If you did, he should not be your fiance anymore. And three, who else was with y'all? Because we Muslim, that's part of the rules. Let me tell y'all this in today's time. See, her fantasy involves something that cannot help happen. Can't be the case. Because you can't put an entire mall or even just the inventory in a mall inside of a car trunk. I don't particularly care that this was a fantasy. I don't care about her saying that she can't help it. I would not care if anybody else told me, well, I can't help that. That's what I'm looking for. I don't feel a guck. You can help that. If you can't, then you're just SOL. Because at some point you had to be corrupted to get to this point. You had to think, you have to be dumb enough to think that you can fit an entire mall's inventory into the trunk of one car. You got to be an idiot to think that. You know what's funny is that I didn't tie these two together yesterday like I should have, and I'm sorry. Forgot about that. So today I'm coming in and I'm tying those two together. I also want to point out something else, if I may, and that is that when you get assessed, gentlemen, see, you're being assessed unreasonably, to be honest. The way that you're being assessed is insane. See, right now with this talk of alpha and beta, I even said that we need to know what these terms are before we start utilizing them, and we need to know the history of these terms. I've said this before, and what's wound up being the case is that now you got these ladies trying to use these to describe what they're looking for and what they're not looking for. The problem is this: those are only two terms. Men are more complex than this dichotomy. Even beta does not fully describe everything. Beta means second. And every man is subordinate to someone else. That's just how that works. It's not any man's fault. There's a chain or a command or a circulation or a sharing of power in stable societies anyway. There is no one at the top because human beings aren't ready for that, aren't wise enough for that. That's why the Lord gets to be at the top. Every other human being must be subject to be checked by another person, even presidents. The Quran even says if we did not check one set of people by means of another, there will be even more corruption in the earth than what you find. I forgot the chapter and the verse. I don't even have the exact translation. I don't remember the Arabic, but that was the saying in English. It would be even worse if Allah did not check one set of people by means of another. He sends enemies when people just absolutely need it, and He's going to correct them. Even the Khan of the Mongols, when he first came after the Muslims, he said to them, I am the punishment of God, and if you had not sinned, He would not have sent me. Now, he was a non-Muslim, a brutal one at that, talking to the Muslims who were the epitome of civilization at that time. I say this to say to you that when these ladies assess you, as far as they're concerned, alpha and beta don't even do justice to their assessments and to the mistakes they make. If you were not alpha over everybody else in all times, in all circumstances, with no exception, which no man is, then you're not only beta, you are omega. But they use the term beta because that's all they know. That's all we know. But you are an omega as far as they are concerned. An omega, meaning that at the end of it all, you are at the bottom. Most of us are somewhere in between. We have superiors, we have subordinates, and it even changes from one situation in life to another. Most of us have this, yet and still, what they see is either you are bossing everyone else around, and the minute you have a superior, you're at the bottom, and everybody else, all the other men are raping you as far as they're concerned. They don't see a difference. Either you're bullying everyone else in high school, or everyone else is bullying you in high school, and there's no in between. They can't imagine that. Now that we've got that said, I want to tell you that because of this mistake in the way that they've been trained in the West to assess you, you may have heard me yesterday being very polite to someone I love very much. My wife brought something to me in the room. I spoke to her in another language. Many of you don't know what I said. So I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to explain to you why I said this and was so polite to her at the same time. I'm telling you to be vicious, militant, aggressive, one-sided, not violent, but certainly not understanding, unsympathetic. The reason is because, you see, I left the West and I'm now being treated so well I am spoiled, and I tried to spoil her in exchange. You are stuck in the West still, and that means that you don't get that. And it's not your fault, but you're told to think it's somehow your fault. At the very least, you will be told that the way you're treated or mistreated is the fault of some other man, and you're simply not distinguishable enough from him for her to turn around and treat you any better. The very least you will be told is that, well, if it ain't you, it's some other man. It's never her. And they won't say to you that that other man is a sliver of the male population. That's what you have to deal with, and I don't. I'm not bragging. I'm grateful to my Lord about this. And I wonder at times, maybe I have survivor's guilt, but I realize that I've got to turn around and tell you, because see, in the end, if you really want to know what's going on, gentlemen, what I'll explain to you is that because I have gotten out of that situation, I feel bad for you being in it. And so therefore I want to say to you that there's hope if you can geographically make the changes I did. I don't want to see you stuck in that and not know. But because I made the changes I did, I see the comparison and the contrast. I experienced them directly. You may not know that a hot tub is a hot tub if you've never been in any room temperature water before. But then if you get into room temperature water, you're going to find out that that hot tub was a hot tub. You may not know that you can actually get very relaxed submerged in water until you get into a hot tub. You may have been in regular swimming pools before, never a hot tub, and you didn't know that water could still be a liquid that hot. But when you've been in both, you understand. Well, it's the same thing with me. Because I've been in both, I can sit up and say, wait a minute, now see, what you're in, it's too cold, it's too uncomfortable, it's not normal, it's not good for your health. It's not something you've earned with your behavior. It doesn't come with the territory. It's not okay for them to do. It's not okay for you to just be stuck in that. And that's why it is that I've said to you before that you need to leave. Because after you've left that and you've gotten out of that situation, especially if you wind up as fortunate as I did 2 times in a row, you're then going to turn back to the men stuck in the West and you're going to say, listen, you got to get out if you can. And in the meantime, don't tolerate this mess. Don't accept it. Because while you're sitting up here, while you've gotten used to this particular food you're eating, thinking it's normal, there are actually grilled, well-seasoned steaks being served elsewhere. And not only to the people that don't deserve them, but to the people that actually deserve them. That's what it's like. You go into you're in that candy store or in that shop, and the one with showing the most disrespect gets the best candy, and for free. And you come up with what's left on the shelf afterwards, and you're told to pay the same price as what the other candy's worth. You just didn't know what the other candy's price was because it wasn't even on the shelf when you came around. It's always gone. Every time you saw it, it was in somebody else's hands. The hands of the disrespectful father-mucker to the shop owner. You ain't been in a shop in which, you know what, the one that goes in and shows respect gets respect. Probably has to pay sticker price, but still gets respect. You haven't been in a situation in which when you go into the same store again and again and again, and one day you find you're short on change, they go ahead and forgive it because of all the times you've gone in there with the right change and you've been nice and respectful. You ain't been in a situation in which when you go there, nobody skips you in line. Everybody is waited on in the order in which they came, to be fair. You ain't dealt with that before. Now, these things sound very basic as I'm describing them to you, but the corollary in real life is not something you've dealt with before. And I'm telling you it's there, and I want you to have that. And in the meantime, if you're stuck where you are geographically, I still want you to at least be able to turn to the store owners where you are or the shop owners where you are and say, you know what, you piece of crap, I'm not going to pay. As a matter of fact, I'm not even going to deal with you anymore. And I'm going to tell everybody else what you've been doing. You've been letting people who punk you come in here and disrespect you, walk out with the best candy trying to appease them because you want their approval. And you've let the respectful customers, you've robbed them actually. And I'm going to tell them you're robbing them. I'm going to tell them that you yourself mark the prices for the candy that is not even on the shelf anymore. You yourself had a sticker price that's higher. I'm going to point this out to them. And that the sticker price itself for the candy they bring to the counter to pay for is not even as high as what you've been charging at the register. I'm going to point this out to them. You yourself said that you wrote this down on the shelves. This is the price for the Snickers. This is the price for that no-name brand candy. And all that's left is a no-name brand candy, and it's not even because you never had it. It's because you gave it for free to someone else and you figured that we would pay the difference for the inferior stuff. I'm going to point this out. So not only am I not coming, when everybody comes in and they start to watch and see this, and they find this out, start noticing it and see it for themselves, you're out of business. Don't worry, we'll find it somewhere else. We'll find it from a shop that actually does. And you know what? Candy is not even a necessity anyway. That's why I say what I say to you. Even though I'm not turning around and being aggressive and rude militant here where I live. I don't have to. Last thing I want to tell you before I go is that when it comes down to the way that you've been assessed, I've touched on this before. The way that you're being assessed is a very middle school and high school childish way for them to assess you. I realize this. I also want you to understand that they're not going to outgrow that. This is not something that they outgrow. They can't. Not in the West. What'll happen is this. They have this middle school, high school way of assessing you. As I said, you're either top dog in every situation, or the one time you're not, you then they see you as the same guy that's just getting picked on and slammed and slapped by everybody in the hallway and even raped in the bathrooms by all the other guys. That's the way they view you. They don't see one or the other. They don't see any nuance in between. They do see one or the other. They can only see the extremes. And if you're in the middle, they see you as at the bottom because they assume the worst. When you get older, you're not going to be assessed any differently. But you will find that you're going to have more chances. Do you know why they're going to give you more chances as you get older? It's not because they assess you differently. The exceptions to that are the men who change their appearance, then change their geographic location. And it has to be in that order. That is when a man has a different situation elsewhere. If you got big old Coke bottle glasses, you might want to get contacts first, then move elsewhere. You cannot take those same Coke bottle glasses to a new city if that's what's formed everybody's assessment of you, and then go to a new city and think you're going to have a different assessment. It's not the way that works. You're going to have to change. You're going to have to get contacts or surgery, then go to the other city, and things will change. And that's the end of it. But the point is that when you get older and some of them start to give you chances, you will notice that there's a disrespect that comes with it. They're not giving you a chance because the assessment changed, because they're more mature and they can see more now than what they did when they were younger. They will give you chances because they're looking for someone to whom they can do certain things that are disrespectful to you, but that are advantageous to them, or maybe even just disrespectful to you. Don't underestimate the power of that motive in them. Sometimes it's just to hurt a man. Now they can benefit from it, sure, but there are times when they can't benefit, they just still hurt men, such as when women get STDs and all of a sudden they start saying, okay, well, you know what, I'm gonna sexually relieve all these dudes. They're not doing that because they want to provide relief. That's not it. They're doing it because they want you to catch an STD. It doesn't benefit them that you catch it. They're just looking for your downfall. Because contempt for you is a very strong motive in and of itself, without the benefits that it might bring to them. Keep that in mind. Don't underestimate that, gentlemen. Next, I want you, getting back to this about your assessment. If you don't believe me, take a look at that man in the UK that got on camera with his glasses and his receding hairline, I think it was. And he said, "It doesn't give you the right to call me a cock. Even though I would never cheat on her, she has to explore the side of her. And if it means I have to sleep on the bed for several nights a week, then that's what I'll do." But that doesn't make me a cuck. No, that makes you a cuck, but that's the definition. And you ain't even cheating in retaliation. And most men can't do it to the same degree, because you can't just go to the bar and pick up a chick like that. That man's girlfriend or wife can just go to the bar and pick up a dude. Even though there are more men that are shy of strangers than there are men that'll just go home and slang, it's still going to be easier for ladies. It's just not as easy as what many people imagine. It's still easier for them than it is for guys. Now, you might think if this man shows her that he's got a backbone and a spine, he can teach her a lesson. No, that's not true. He can't. He cannot teach her a lesson about this stuff. It's not something he could do. He can put his foot down, show he's got boundaries, but she's not going to learn and then stop doing this stuff. What'll happen is that he's going to have to say to her, "I'm going to get even, and you're going to stop doing this while I get even, or we're over." Then she's going to say, "We're done for." Even if he leaves, he's not going to teach her a lesson that she shouldn't do such. Because she's already looked at him and assessed that she can do this to him. And if she finds she's wrong, she'll just leave him. She's not going to change his rank for the better. And again, that's because she comes from a toxic environment that's taught her to be toxic. And it's too positive a thing to do for a guy to upgrade his rank. You can rise in rank amongst other guys and at work and at certain jobs and in skill sets. You can't rise in rank in the eyes of the same broad. Not in the West. Because for one, they think they're such experts in dudes. Now, granted, they have a better understanding than we do of them. That's because we're simpler, not because they're smarter. But they think they've got such a great understanding that they never, ever are going to sit up here and increase your rank. See, they may say, "Well, you're not the guy I thought you were and you're a disappointment." But how often do they come along and say, "Well, you know what, you're actually more of a man than I thought you were. You're a pleasant surprise." You certainly are going to hear one a lot more than you're going to hear the other. Even if they do come to understand that you're actually exactly what they thought you weren't, you're actually much higher in their eyes, according to their own ranking, much more of a man than what they thought you were, they're not going to say it. Again, because it's war. It's not about mating, it's not about matching, it's about them winning. And the best way for them to win is for you to not even know it's a war. So just keep in mind, you are being assessed wrongly, very shallowly, and they're not going to mature and change the way, the methods, or the standards by which they assess your manhood. Absolutely not. And for the most part, even if you alpha in their eyes, they're still going to turn around and assess it by whatever you don't have. That's why Amal Clooney complains about George Clooney not picking up after himself at home. If he did pick up after himself at home, she would have something to say about it. She might not have something to say about it, but she would certainly treat him like he's less than a man. It doesn't matter. It's going to always be something. So I want you to keep that in mind, gentlemen. None of this is to teach her a lesson. It can't be. The younger ones can be taught a lesson. The ones that are little kids now, when she comes up, she can learn a lesson if she comes up against an environment that's going to only teach one lesson. But the ones that have already learned the wrong lessons can't relearn any better or more realistic lessons because it's too toxic. And they're already filled with such a contempt for normal guys like us, like most of us. And even to a lesser extent for the men they do want. They're filled with such a content, they refuse to learn any lesson that's convenient for any man for them to learn. That's one of the reasons why they don't even learn some lessons until after, not when they hit the wall, but after they done hit the wall, realize that they just crashed into a wall, gone a few miles further, and then gotten over the denial. Only at that point do they learn even some lessons that are convenient to you. And what's the reason for that? Well, they are part of that motive is because it was simply too convenient for you for them to learn these lessons before they hit the wall. That's still too convenient for you. Would have made things too easy for you as far as they were concerned. So they were never going to learn those lessons at that point. Absolutely not. 22 and learning these lessons, even then, you know how they act when they're 22. They know they're 22. And look how they're allowed to act. So they know what they're doing. It's like MOT said, they're sitting up here when they are young and plotting on these. They're plotting paternity fraud, plotting the dual mating strategy, picking out which kind of guys are good to be are good for selection on the losing end of that, plotting which kind of guys they're going to collectively tell you're only good to raise these other cats' kids. Only. That's what they're doing. They're sitting up thinking about this years before. And they're even saying, even if I'm wrong, I'm not going to let life or God or anyone else teach me any lessons until I'm so old don't nobody want me no more. Then I'll go ahead and humble myself so I can find someone to take care of me so that I still won't have to get out there and work a job to look after myself. They're sitting up thinking about this before they get to high school as far as I'm concerned. Certainly by 10th grade at the latest. They set up and plotted this out. It's not just accidental. They thought about this. I'm not going to learn anything that is convenient for them for me to think and have in my mind until I'm so old that at that point they're settling. I told you it was war, gentlemen. Thank you for listening. You now understand why I say what I say, and I'm not using the peace greeting this time either on the outro. Black heart, black mind, black out, black heterosexual non-select male power just because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.